That call for the UK to pay reparations to the Caribbean for its role in the transatlantic slave trade has been increasingly vocal. It's been led primarily by the Caribbean community. The Caribbean leaders argue that economic and social damage caused by slavery and colonialism still affects the region today, and they believe that those reparations, including compensation and apologies, are necessary because they think it will address historical injustices. But of course there are plenty of strong arguments against it, and one hopes that if the King himself can't make them, maybe, as you say, Sir Keir Starmer might be able to. The historical responsibility and temporal distance are basically the biggest problems, because holding present-day nations and populations accountable for the actions committed hundreds of years ago suggests that there's a significant historical gap between the actions of the British Empire and today's population. And it's pretty difficult as well to figure out exactly who should be the beneficiary of those reparations, exactly who are the ancestors that deserve the reparations, exactly how much should it be, what should it be in order to compensate. It really makes it very hard to justify modern reparations, which, when we look at things like the Holocaust, where Germany has made reparations for stolen possessions and wealth, for example, from Jews who were persecuted, there's a much more easily traceable line to show that there are actual possessions, sometimes art, sometimes wealth, sometimes corporations, that were stolen, and therefore it's easier to make those reparations. And even the undertaking of those sorts of things has been difficult. Now, this is something much further ago, and I think it's far more dubious whether or not there is a strong case for it.
Yeah, one would hope. I mean, to me, it's utterly for the birds that 200 billion quid could be scared up. I want to know where that figure's come from and what it's going to be used for. Surely, though, the point of something like the Commonwealth is to invite better trade and better relationships between countries who share, by and large, common systems of democracy, common legal systems, and a common language. A lot of them are Anglophone countries, given the beginning of the Commonwealth really was the British Empire. Of course, countries over the course of decades have left and others have joined who were never in the British Empire. But it's supposed to sort of promote trade and relations between the countries. Surely a better approach, therefore, would be to have conversations about foreign direct investment. You know, how can we as Britain make money for everybody by facilitating trade, by, you know, investing in production in your country, investing in tourism, and then, you know, reaping the benefits of that?
Well, that's right. I mean, another strong argument there is that the colonial period wasn't only one of exploitation, but it also brought infrastructure, education, legal frameworks, systems of governance that have benefited the Caribbean nations in the long term. And so reparations obviously can't overlook the complexity of that historical relationship between Britain and its former colonies. And indeed, I would say that it undermines the West to do something like this, because the reparation claims are part of a broader effort to generally undermine the West by forcing this sort of continuous atonement for wrongdoings and for sins that we should all be suffering for. They're not something that we've done. They're not something that even our near ancestors have done. But somehow we're being encouraged still by this kind of woke thinking to constantly self-flagellate about privilege that we are beneficiaries of. This is all such tenuous stuff. And I think, in fact, the fact that so many states choose to be part of the Commonwealth, which, as you rightly say, is kind of the offspring of the empire, just shows that there was an acknowledgement of the benefits of the connections to the UK, even to the royal family, and to these other countries that were once part of the empire. That's not to say that everything about the empire was good. Of course, we acknowledge in today's day and age the problems and the historic injustices that may have been part of that, but we also have to acknowledge, I think, the benefits that numerous countries had from that period as well, and recognise that, because many choose to still be in the Commonwealth, which is perhaps like, in fact, it's Meghan and Harry who kind of called it the Empire 2.0 in that dreadful Netflix series they made. But maybe there's a point in that. This is an Empire 2.0, if they want to call it that so many states are proud to be part of and want to continue to be part of because of the benefits of those kind of relationships across the nations.
Yeah, you know, I always think the Commonwealth doesn't do enough. I've always said that one of the benefits of leaving the European Union is we'd be able to strike up our own actual trade deals again. And after turning our backs on Africa for so long and allowing multinational companies like Nestle, like Unilever to dictate trade policy through the prism of the EU, we instead could have had more of a Marshall programme and actually traded with countries like Kenya directly and benefited them economically and benefited us. I just don't understand where the Caribbean nations get these mad ideas from. Jonathan, thank you ever so much for speaking to me. I really liked the way you put your point forward there. I agreed with absolutely everything that you said.